Okay, guys, so this is going to be the ultimate guide here that kind of goes over everything in terms of retargeting animations or getting whatever animations you want to play on first person and third person. We'll talk a little bit less about the third person. It's going to be mostly about retargeting and then going into the animation blueprint to set those animations properly. And I'm going to go through 99% of it because a lot of videos do, bits and pieces here and there, like how to retarget animation, but they don't talk about blend spaces, animation blueprints, and stuff like that. We're going to kind of go over everything for more specifically the zombie survival template. First things first, though, now you're still going to have to retarget animations, but if you have a kit, for instance, the low poly shooter pack kit or the ultimate FPS kit, or the low poly modern animated guns kit, those have a lot of assets and animations attached to one set of skeletons. So what I would recommend for using, find a kit that you want to be your base kit and actually replacing the arms in the zombie survival template character, the base character. And what I mean by that is if you go into, let me pull it up here, your base third person character, my mesh is actually invisible for lobby menu reasons and stuff, so don't worry about that. There's still a third person mesh here. These FP arms, I actually replaced the first person arms with the LPAMG kit arms, just the skeletal mesh asset, and then I set the animation class here. Now, that doesn't mean that all of those animations are just going to gloriously work now from that kit. There's some other stuff you're going to have to do, and we'll go over that. But the first thing is, for instance, if you get like a set of arms here from the LPAMG kit, I was merging two of these animation sets into one. So if you'll notice here, my skeleton is actually the low poly shooter pack skeleton. It's not the LPAMG skeleton, if you guys are familiar with either one of those packs. The reason I did that is because I like those arms better than the LPSP arms, and it's really easy to swap over the animations. There's a couple ways you can do it. The sketchiest way to do it is if you open up your arms here, right? Browse to them. There's an LPAMG skeleton for the LPAMG gloves. If you delete this, you can, on the bottom left, it'll have a pop-up menu that asks you if you want to replace the references. You can then scroll to the LPSP skeleton and replace all of the references for this skeleton. So now this skeleton will work on that other skeleton. The safer way to do that would be to, if you want these to play on a different skeleton, they will no longer work with the animations that they work with. So I suggest retargeting what you want from that pack before deleting the skeleton, or getting your retargets done, then swapping skeletons. So I had all my LPSP done, and you can just go to bulk or asset actions, bulk edit via property matrix. You'll have a mesh here, and this mesh is linked to a skeleton. As you can see here, it's linked to my LPSP character skeleton. All you have to do is click this pick asset. You can pick whatever skeleton you want those arms to now be attached to whatever skeleton you want, and now those arms will be able to do all of the animations without retargeting on that skeleton. So that's what I've done to get the LPAMG arms to work with the LPSP skeleton. And once you do that, you can just go back to your character here, put the arms where you want them, and now all of my LPSP skeletons or animations will now work on these arms, and all I had to retarget was a shorter list of LPAMG animations, or even the ultimate FPS kit animations. Now, that being said, once you implement your arms here, you will have to make a custom animation blueprint. And the reason is because the animation blueprint, if you just put the LPSP animation blueprint here, then it's not linked to your character. It's linked to the LPSP character, so it will not function on your character. So you'll have to create a custom animation blueprint. So go into your skeletal mesh asset here, and if you open up my animation blueprint, you'll see this is my ZST animation blueprint. And actually, if we just go back into our first person animation, I might have deleted it already. First person animations, yeah, I already deleted it. I had the original HGT arms in here. I've just removed them, but it more or less looks exactly the same as this, minus a few minor features that I might have added, like the recoil ADS and recoil idle. Yeah, so this is like procedural recoil and stuff, like you won't have that, but that's a separate video. But yes, copy everything from your ZST, from the event graph, the animation graph, and just kind of go back through, make sure everything's plugged up correctly. Like for instance, in your event graph here, you'll have to, I've done some custom stuff, this is all not necessary, but you'll have to go back through, make sure the player ref is your ZST character, not the LPSP character, re-rig all of the stuff here. Basically just make it the same as the ZST. You're gonna have to re-drag out all of these, you know, make sure refresh all these nodes, right click, refresh these nodes. But yeah, more or less this is all the same, minus this weapon swaying and stuff. Yeah, this is pretty much all exactly how ZST comes, minus some other stuff. So yeah, just make sure all that's set up, and then that's the easiest way to get a bulk of your animations to play. We'll get into the actual animation blueprint a little bit later. I just wanted to let you guys know, before we get into retargeting, it is definitely an option to just swap your arms on the character. Now, we'll just go back and we'll get rid of this stuff. We'll get into the important stuff, the actual IK retargeting. And first, I'll open up one I'm working on currently, so you can kind of get a feel for how this is done. So I'll open up both the rigs here. I'm doing Ultimate FPS kit animations, and I'll post a link to that kit in the video as well. So here's my Ultimate FPS rig, and this is the rig. The other one's the IK retargeter, and then my LP-AMG are arms here. So you don't have to worry about this IK goal. It is utterly useless. But what you're going to want to do for retargeting here is, let me drag this up a little bit so we can get just kind of everything encompassed here. So if you don't know how to, there's plenty of videos on actually setting up each individual rig, but more or less you'll highlight a section of bones like this, right click, create new retarget chain from selected bones. It'll pop up a little menu here. You can rename it whatever you'd like, and it will then populate on the right side of the screen here. For the majority of these, you don't have to do much other than highlight a grouping of segments here. So for instance, the spine will always be spine 1 to spine 3. All the fingers are just going to be each individual finger set. So index to index 3, middle to middle 3, pinky to pinky 3. So you would just go like this, highlight these 3, and then new retarget chain for selected bones. Both hands, make sure that they match both characters all the way down. Where things change a little bit on the retargets, which is become very important, I've noticed, is these lower arm twists have not been the best for retargeting. On a lot of animations, the arms are either 180 degrees out. I just usually try to skip those, so when I do the retarget chain for this, I'll start at clavicle, upper arm left, lower arm left, and then hand. When you right click and do a new retarget chain from these selected bones, it is going to make two different, it's going to ask you to create two. One will go to lower arm twist, the other one will go from clavicle left to hand left. And you can see here, clavicle, yeah, it'll make two. Keep both of them. One will be named clavicle left, and you can rename the other one clavicle left 0. It'll go from clavicle left to lower arm left, and then 0 will go from clavicle left to hand left. This will skip the twist because you did not highlight it in the chain. But yeah, this has been very helpful, I've noticed, in fixing some 180 out issues. Same with the right hand side. You'll do a clavicle right, the clavicle right to the lower arm, and then clavicle right 0, clavicle right to the hand right. There are some other ones. Thigh, I do this with the thighs. So I skip calf twist. I'll do, for instance, thigh left, calf left, and foot. That's all you need. I don't do the ball here. I don't worry about the ball at all, especially when you're dealing with FPS arm animations. So you'll see here it's just thigh left to foot left. It does indeed skip the calf twist. You don't have to worry about the calf twist. It just, in my experience, has issues. Neck, you don't have to do anything crazy. It's just neck directly to the head. Fingers, again, I said you don't have to worry about those. Those were the bulk of the skippings. I have noticed on getting the shoulders to move in the directions that FPS arms tend to come out or forward. Sometimes these shoulders do not move, so I've created a separate little retarget for, I've called these two spine new 1 and spine new 2. All these are simply spine 3 to clavicle right, and then, or clavicle left, and then spine 3 to clavicle right. This, in my experience, has helped with the shoulders moving. If you put these on globally scaled, and again, we'll get into that. Again, a weird thing, but in my experience has worked really well. Adding a pelvis retarget. This has been really great if the roots are off. It's simply just pelvis to pelvis. I recommend having this. At worst case, it's a redundancy. It's not going to hurt you to have it in there. It's not going to change anything, but it does help with getting the positions of the pelvis more closely matched that I've noticed. The last thing to do here is the IK stuff. So when we're talking about IK handguns, that is for guns that float independently of the hands. So if you have a bolt action and the right hand has to leave the rifle and come up and then cycle a bolt and then reattach to the rifle, well, that's because it's not actually attached to the right hand socket. It is attached to a floating IK. Here you can see the IK hand right here. This would be the IK handgun, and you'll see that when we get into the retargeter. What I do is I'll do the IK handgun to IK handgun left, so I'll come here, retarget these two, and then I'll do IK handgun to IK handgun right and retarget those two. It'll make duplicates. Delete the second, delete whatever it wants to make. Just make sure you have IK handgun to IK handgun left, and then IK handgun to IK hand right. Make sure it just looks like this, and then one is gun and one is gun 0, and then the root is simply IK hand root to IK hand gun. So you're just going right here to right there like that and retarget that. It might also make a duplicate. I'm not 100% sure if I remember, but yeah. Yeah, that one makes a dupe. Oh no, that one might not make a dupe. If it does, just make sure you delete. It'll do one name, IK hand root, keep that one, and then do root to gun. You can always switch these, no matter what anyway, so it's not a big deal. So if you want to, copy how this looks right now, don't worry about this pelvis goal. It didn't do anything for me. I was trying to do something with the root, but I figured out another way to do it. Again, same thing with your other rig. And once you have all those set up, now we'll get into the actual nitty-gritty of retargeting. the meshes here. So we will go ahead and we'll just play an animation here to get the arms where they are. Now, in this Ultimate FPS kit that I am currently retargeting, we'll put these back to 0, and you can see that the arms are lined up with each other, just how they should be. That is because I have made the pelvis the root retarget here. The retarget root on both skeletons. Every skeleton is different. You will have to fiddle with either making this the retarget root on one and this the retarget root on the other, or swapping it and making this the retarget root on the other and this the retarget root. You can swap them, try. It's really hit or miss on this particular set of skeletons. Both the pelvis being the root retarget root works. On another IK rig that I have, the LPAMG kit will have to go back to the root being the retarget root. Otherwise, it won't function. And I'll show you if I make this the retarget root, right? And I come back to the the IK retargeter, it's not correct. It's not going to retarget correctly. And that actually does not change if I make this the retarget root on this one. It will still look exactly like this if both of them are set to the retarget root. So I go ahead and fiddle with that until it looks pretty close, like that. You'll know when you get it right. And the other thing is you'll get it pretty close, and if it's still a little off, it'll be either your clavicles or, let's see here, the IK handgun stuff. So if you take a look here on, if it's still messed up, go to your clavicles. That doesn't have a translation. That doesn't have a translation. Okay. Okay. Yes. Right here. Translation mode absolute. Pelvis. If I took this to none, the retarget's off. So when you retarget this, either the animation is going to be really low or really high up in the air. So you want to make sure to do, especially if your retarget root is the pelvis, make sure that's absolute. Again, this is going to be one of those things you're going to have to kind of go through the big bones, the important bones that are going to be the retarget main, or the main things here. So like the arms, you're going to have to go through and kind of try. If it still doesn't line up, you can try to make these absolute. On this particular skeleton, I think that the clavicles don't like to have an absolute here. If I go back to asset, it seems to not care on this particular skeleton. I'll go back and leave them on none, just for the sake of not messing anything up I already had. But yeah, that's important on these clavicles. Try to do absolute on either one of these, or it might have been these. I'm sorry. Yeah, see how it sunk down. So now you'll have to. Yeah, it starts getting complicated. Let me pause this animation so I can think. So see how this is swung down in an absolute. If I come back up to pelvis and I put this on none, this will trick you, right? So if I go to my other clavicle right 0 and I make it absolute, you're like, oh yeah, my arms are in the right spot, but they're off. Well, they're in the right area, but you have to look with the debug lines where. That's where these are so helpful. Where's the rest of my skeleton? So the animation's still going to be wrong. It's still going to be offset. And if you're thinking, well, I'll just change the root, you don't have to do that. Just make sure you have the correct things in absolute. Like I said, again, it's going to be different, unfortunately, for every skeleton. They kind of like to do their own thing. Hopefully this exact setup works for you, especially if you're using the LPSP or the Ultimate FPS kit. I'll go actually into another IK rig and show you what's different in that one, so you can get a kind of a feel for it. But we'll go back to the pelvis here and make sure this is set to absolute, and you can kind of play with transforming stuff this way. Any static offset done here, you don't have to worry about this. This affects nothing. This doesn't change anything with the IK goal. Well, it might. I don't know how to use it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I tried to do an offset here. It did not retarget. So we'll go ahead and skip that portion because it's really not necessary. There's another way to fix any offset you might have. Again, IK handgun. I have this set just on the IK handgun. If you're using that, that has to be set to absolute. That is a given across all skeletons. If you put this to none, the IK handgun will be way off on the retarget. So if you link a weapon to this IK handgun, it is going to be floating up and left in front of your face. And you're like, oh, I'll just change the socket on the IK. So if you went to your skeleton here and you... wrong skeleton. We'll go... Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the right skeleton. If you come down to your... like car, my socket here at I'll have to obviously back out of that IK rig, which is not a big deal. Save that, close the skeleton, go back into the rig, close this out, reopen this rig. Oh, is it not gonna... Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. It doesn't do the preview. But just trust me, this is how the IK rig is supposed to look, or the IK handgun right here. So you go to source, IK handgun. That's how it's gonna look. As soon as you do that on the source, it's gonna be correct. But you can see here the target is way off. Source, right spot, target off. Make sure that that doesn't look like this, and you have your IK handgun always set on absolute. As long as the pelvis is correct, your IK handgun will be correct when set to absolute. So as you can see, it goes now in the right spot. This is the IK for the knife, and it is animated with the hand. Especially if you already have a kit, the IK handgun will be animated. You don't have to worry about that, doing any crazy animations. We'll go to another one. Rifle arms, you can see here that the IK handgun is now moving correctly with the rest of the arms. I'm pretty sure if you have all of this set correctly and you've gone through some of your chain mapping and you've got your absolutes set, that is all you're going to really need for the retargets. I always recommend working on one gun at a time just to limit confusion. So if you were doing like rifle 1 here, I would start with like the idle, the fire. We're going to just focus on the animation blueprint and then not even reloads. We'll get into reloads towards the end, but just do your like animation blueprint stuff, which is not going to be reloads and stuff. It's just going to be idle to run, running, jumping, firing, ADS, simple stuff like that. Export all of that into one folder in your FPS animations. Okay, so now you've got hopefully a majority of your animations retargeted. Or if you're using the arms. There's one crucial thing I forgot. It's not really a big deal. It's just how to create. You can't duplicate a... let me get into my setup here. I'm blind. You can't duplicate an animation blueprint because it uses whatever skeleton is linked to that animation blueprint. So you just have to go to animation and then do animation blueprint. Click this and create it. Name whatever you would like. It will create an animation blueprint like this. And I wish I could show you. I mean, the stuff you're going to have to copy is, I mean, this blueprint has a lot of crazy shit in it. So, it's kind of hard to say it would look anything like this, but most of this stuff is the same. I think all of this here, right here, is correct. This is just expanded greatly. This is just transforms we'll get into a little bit later. And you won't have any of this. This is for procedural recoil. But you'll copy your animation graph. Basically copy everything in the ZST, go to the new animation graph, paste everything in your animation graph, don't compile just yet, go to your event graph, copy everything in the event graph, paste it, and I think you won't have any functions. You'll just have the event graph and the anim graph. It will, then you can compile. It'll give you a bunch of warnings because none of this stuff exists. Right click, it'll give you an option to create variable, create everything. And like I said before in the previous video, make sure if you are making an animation blueprint, a new blueprint, that this is set to the correct character and you are casting to the third person character to set the player reference, and then setting the rest of the information here. That's where it's getting the information from. Your velocity, your jumping, everything is set here that we're setting in the animation graph. So now that either you're using HDT animation graph or you're using your own custom blueprint animation, no matter what, I think that pretty much covers the copy and paste section of making the animation blueprint. Obviously, you can, taper and do, whatever you want, kind of expand upon it, like recoil and stuff. But in your animation graph, I don't think you'll have to create any variables here. Yeah, because these will all be created when you create them in the event graph. Default slot. I don't think anything is different really here. Yeah, it's a pretty simple blueprint compared to like ALS or even the LPSP blueprint. But so you've got a new weapon, you've set it up on your hand socket where you want it. Now you just need to play the correct animation when the weapon you have is selected. So before we go any further, go to weapons under HGT, your info table, and let's say you've made a new weapon. My newest weapon here is the Car 42. I am setting the weapon blueprint. We all know how to do that. I'm not getting into it. And I am now going to select a weapon anim set, and you're like, oh shit, I don't have a weapon anim set for this. So go back to your arms, and well, I guess first things first, we will do the right here and under your weapons, you're gonna have a weapon anims enum. I would recommend creating. You don't have to do this for every rifle or pistol or whatever, but if it's nicer to be able to set. I have a couple rifles that are all share AR-01, so if it works on a class that you already have, then by all means use it on a class you already have. But if the arms are, really crazy, and you want to do something else later with third person and you need them to be in a completely different place, I always recommend creating your own special enumerator for that. So you just go to add enumerator. I've got the car here. I misnamed it, but I left it and it's stuck. So you make a new enumerator here, save this, close it, then go back to your animation blueprint. And what I always do is I'll like all of these are based off of each other. Like this was copied, and then when I made this, I copied off that. And when I made this, I copied off that. So you can kind of say, oh, I got a new shotgun. I'll base it off a shotgun I created earlier. But in the case of this rifle, I think I copied the AR locomotion. So you'll just copy this, come down here. And again, this is for first person. The last video or the last thing of this video is going to be for third person. Now that you've got this copied, you can quickly change the name of it to whatever you would like. We'll just do example. Okay. Under example, you can drag off of this and do new save cache pose. Now you've got a new state machine that is based off of animations that are from the AR-01. These are now the exact same. And inside of this, you'll see you've got a whole state machine. This is where you're going to change the animations that we've retargeted for the locomotion. So running, sprinting, aiming, idling, jumping, stuff like that. So now that we're in our example and we're in idle, grab your idle animation, whatever you want for idle, and just change it here. Go to sequence, change it to your new retargeted animation, whatever you named it, whatever your ADS you can go ahead and change it to, you know, whatever ADS animation sequence you have. Now, for here, I use is switching weapon and aiming the same because I'm using the blend out pose. Yeah, I think I removed. Yeah, this is already the way that it is right here. I just removed reloading. I had an issue with blending out while reloading, so I basically just added blend out time and released the hand IK, which you release the hand IK in the third person blueprint. So, yeah, so is aiming. While you're aiming, if you're switching weapons, he goes to an aim pose, but you're actively switching weapons, so you won't see that aim pose. So if you go to is aiming, he'll do that, but you're playing an animation, so it doesn't really matter. You could just leave this the way that it is. While as reloading, he still plays the exact same animation. And the reason that this is important is because your idle animation here is set is your additive. And that sounds confusing. So you're not using additives in your animation montage. There should be no additive in the montage. It should just be the raw sequence. So when you hit reload, you want the arms to be the exact same place as they are when you're idling. Otherwise, they will move. So if you do reloading, right? So if I put this in the blend out, the false blend out here, the 0.25, 2.5 really helps a lot. So now, right, if I compile this and I do reloading. Oh, why didn't this oh, that's because I'm an example. But anyway, he would play the aim idle animation when he's reloading, which could put the arms in potentially the wrong position. You are going to be reloading at an idle state. God, I hate it when it does that shit. Okay, sorry for swearing. Yeah, you just want to... That's why I've done this. Especially with the LPSP animations, I've noticed that this works the best. As long as this idle animation is what's being played when you are reloading, then the arms won't move, or jerk, or twitch, or glitch. It should be immediately jump into a reload with a 0.25 blend, because you are going into... And I can show you that. What pose am I in right now? I'm in the pistol pose. Yeah, I'm in the pistol pose. So if we go up to pistol here, and I come to idle, when I do the is reloading, it slowly blends into with a 0.25. So it's pretty smooth. And I do this for every single weapon. Is reloading, blend poses by bool, last. And on this particular weapon, I'm actually merging two, so don't be afraid to do that. I have an SMG idle, which is actually what moves, is actually what's playing the movement aspect. So see how the hands slightly, jump or whatever. And then this is just a hard set pose. So if we open this up, he's not moving at all. It's just a hard set pose. And I need to, yeah. So he's just super still. And then I've merged that just with a blend node. You can kind of play around with this and make it whatever you'd like. But yeah, these are not super complicated locomotion state machines. Go back here. So like if you go to walk, this is his walking, and then you have a walk ADS pose. You don't have to worry about these transform modify bones. These are for the recoil, which is procedural, and it won't be in your project. And again, do that is reloading. You want the walking to be the exact same pose as the walking here. So as you're reloading, if you're walking, his arms don't jerk, move, or go to a weird position. Because if you're walking, and this is an ADS pose, and you hit the reload button, he might go into, like, it might jerk into an ADS pose really quick, and then start the reload. Yeah, it's just best to do it this way, in my experience. Sprint's super easy. Just put your sprint animation here under sprint, and then you can do your jump start, or your jump loop here, because this is, matter of fact, this is hella wrong. Oh, no, not on this particular animation. Anyway, don't worry about me. Monkey see, not monkey do. This is just because my animations are whack on this particular weapon. I think the one that I copied, the AR. But if you want to aim while you're jumping, we'll go back to my animation graph here. And, of course, we're in the wrong one. Go back to the pistol, go to jump start. Yeah, this is more correct. So if you're in air, right, he's doing his little, fall. His arms come down, because you can't really jump in my game, but his arms come down a little bit. But if you're in the air and you want to be able to aim, then you need to be able to go back to your aim position, which there is a left hand IK, so it doesn't actually come back here. There's a left hand IK, so you can kind of just disregard what you're doing here with the actual animation if you're using the left hand IK. Otherwise, I would recommend setting this up properly. And this is going to be in the jump loop. You're going to, yeah. See, as a matter of fact, I'm just using a aim idle here, which is for rifles. But because I'm using the left hand IK in the pistol, it doesn't matter. And we're using the ZST arrow. It's not a big deal. This can kind of be any aim, really. As long as you got a hand IK, you're fine. And then if you're not aiming, he goes back into the fall position. Fine. And then, so moving is in air, no longer in air. But yeah, you would just take this here, and if you are in air, is in air, or is aiming, you want to be able to play the aim idle instead of the jump loop. Same here. If you want to do not play the jump loop, then you can skip the jump loop by saying, am I aiming in the air? Yeah, I can jump and aim at the same time. Doesn't matter. Same. Aim idle. Are you aiming? Yes, then I want to play aiming regardless if I land. So is in air, aiming. If I land, I'm still aiming. Which I should actually probably go back, because this is a more... See, I didn't blend this, and I should have here. I should have added that blend node. So you would go like blend. I won't leave it because it works. I'm using a left hand IK anyway, and the rules, if it's not broken, don't fix it, and it plays correctly. But you would do like a blend here and add your handgun idle, or handgun pose to the aim idle, like I did on all the other ones, and it would be the same. But because we're using IK, we don't have to worry about that. So you get your state set up. Then you need to, after you set your state up, go back to your animation graph after you got all your animations set, and you're gonna want to use. You can rename this to the exact same thing. I can't spell. Example. Okay, maybe, I don't know. I'm not gonna do literature right now. Just call. Oh, I'm sorry. Get cache. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not get. It's use cache. I literally cannot spell today. Use cache example. This is the cache you set here, and where in your enumerator here. Now, before I tell you what to do, file, save all, save everything. Make sure you don't lose any data, because 9 times out of 10, when you right-click this, which do it up here. God, I forget. Yeah, do it here. Click like one of these pens, because if you do it here, it gives you this note, and it's kind of hard to see if you have a ton like me. Click one of these pens, it'll say add pin for element, whatever your new enumerator is. 9 times out of 10, it's going to crash your Unreal Engine. That's why I asked you to save. So if it crashes, no big deal. You saved. You're not going to hurt anything. Add your new pin here. If your project crashed, once you reopen it, just grab this, add it to your new pin, and now you have all your new animations set in your new pin on your weapon anims enum here, which is going to your locomotion cache, which is now being used here, and also I'm using it here because I'm in the ADS position, but if I'm not aiming, I'm using it here, which you don't have to worry about that. That's already set up for ZST. And in your animations, you want to make sure that let me go to an example here in my data table, or actually I'll just open up like this, for instance. I don't think you have to do anything crazy here. Make sure your additive anim type is none. Either that or local space. You could do local space and just don't put an animation. Local space, use reference pose or use reference frame, and then nothing. That is the way to do it. Don't use any additives. We're setting the additives in the reload in the animation blueprint. That's your additive. So I think that's pretty much it. Like, for instance, I did this one. This one's really simple. Like, this is like the easiest one ever. It's just, you know, my arms walk, arms aim walk, arms walk, and then arms aim idle, arms aim fires for my reloading or rechambering to be in the correct place. And that's pretty much the bulk of it for... I think that's it for FPS. I don't think you have to do anything else crazy. You've set it in the info table. You're pulling it here and setting it in the enumerator, and you've got your animations to play when a weapon's pulled. Make sure that your whatever socket you have in the in your FP weapon socket, you can create your own socket on the skeleton. And like, for instance, I'm using a IK handgun because this is a bolt action. So I've got it here. And then once you have it, you know, set, just add a socket to the IK handgun here. Add a socket, name it whatever you'd like. Or if you don't need it to be on IK handgun, add a socket to your hand right, name it whatever you'd like. You see I have a ton here. Just, once you've got the socket, right click, add preview, whatever weapon you would like to preview. So you can click that and it'll preview it just like this one here. Once you've got that, you'll have to save your blueprint. Compile and save it. You'll have to close it, reopen it. You can reopen it right here on the LPS. You can see this little animation blueprint logo. Reopen it back up and then it'll appear just as it is. And then you can go, okay, I'll you know, make my adjustments to the hand socket, and when you get it adjusted correctly, you can view it, if I can actually do it, by coming to, let me see here, you have to go right here to your weapon anim type, pick your new rifle, and then you'll be able to see what arm position he has in, and you go, okay, I need to go up, down, forward, left, twist, and kind of adjust it as it needs to be for the said rifle. So like I've got this one pretty in place. I had some issues with, because I'm using multiple animations from multiple different developers. So in this particular animation set, I had to do a transform modify bone, which if you need to, because the pelvis and the IK handgun are too far forward and to the right compared to my other arm animations, and I'm using the same arms. You go, okay, we'll just move them on the camera. Can't, because it ruins the other arm animations. So in order to get one of these, just do a simple, well, don't do that. If you accidentally delete something, Control Z always brings it back. Do a transform modify bone. Grab that bad boy, open it up, whatever bone you need to modify. If it's positioning wise, you'll have to do pelvis. And if you're using an IK handgun, you'll have to select IK handgun like this. And then on translation mode, you will have to do add to existing. Just grab off of your guy here. It will auto convert it to a component space link structure. And then you can just kind of enter these numbers in. And like you'll see if I do something like crazy number here, if I do like a 15, you'll see how it moves the IK handgun. So you can adjust it. The only reason you have to do an IK handgun is because it is separate from the pelvis. So we'll go back to 9, bam, and if it's too far away, we'll do this one, 15, bam, it moves your arms. You can kind of do a local offset within the animation blueprint if they're not in the right place on the camera. That does not change reloading. So anything that's outside of the animation blueprint is not affected by a transform modify bone, and inside of your character, you cannot at will change the transform location of the arms if they're already set seamlessly. You can transform them, but it will move and you will be able to see it move and it will look whack. So inside your character, instead of if your reloads are off, so let's say your root is off and your LPSP or your animation graph, right? And you've corrected it with a modified bone to get the arms in the correct place that you want them to be. When you reload, it's not accounting for that. It's going to go to the position that the arms were at before you modified them, because the reload is doing, or is putting the arms in the place that there's, retargeted or even designed to be. So in order to fix that issue, so for reloads, weapon inspections, rechambering, anything outside of your general locomotion that is in your third-person character, so like for instance here, FP reload montage, FP reload empty montage, and if you have a rechamber montage, like this, none of these are going to be affected by the animation blueprint. They're going to go back to the original spot. So what you have to do, the easiest way to fix this, is go to whatever animation you want to adjust the root arm location at, open it up, and if you go to your root, well, first of all, you have to open the actual animation sequence from the montage. So this is your raw sequence. So pause the animation, go to 1. If you had to do, come on, populate details, there we go. So you see here, it's the exact same as my animation blueprint. 9 and 15. Sniper is 9 and 15 on the root, not the pelvis. Don't do the pelvis and the IK handgun here, because when you're dealing with animations, stuff gets keyed wrong, it gets wacky. Just move the whole root. You will put in the same numbers as your transform and then make sure it's not moving and key it. Now that animation will be in the same the same local space as the rest of your other animations that are in your animation blueprint. And you will unfortunately have to do that for every single one. As you can see here, if I open up this asset, it's also keyed in the local space of the transform modify, and I've keyed it in that spot. So now this animation will match with what's set here, because the arms are no longer in a different place. They've all changed locations. And I think that's it for the first person stuff. So I'm going to stop it here, and then my last video will be making sure that all of these animations line up with what your character is doing in third person. And I don't think I missed anything here. Nope. And the third person is where we release the left hand IK if you're using a left hand IK. Some of these animations don't have to be perfect with your left hand. I recommend using the left hand IK. You can select that on any single weapon you have in your... It's like at the top, I think. Yeah, use left hand IK. I use it on damn near every single weapon, unless it's like a rocket launcher or something. I don't even think I use it on that. No, I think this is the only one I don't use a left hand IK on. And the way you modify your left hand IKs, go to your weapon blueprints, any weapon blueprint you have, and go to your viewport. Under FP Mesh, there is a FP left hand IK. You will have to play the game in the selected viewport for this. I do that because it's much easier to move the hand. Click this little cycle button here. Cycles transform gizmo coordinate systems between world and local. If you do it this way, when you move these arrows, they're going to follow the direction that they're in. That's super annoying, and I hate that. I want to do it this way. I want to just be able to go up, down, left, right, and if I want to do a big movement here, I can grab this and move it on this plane or this plane and this plane. That makes it so much easier to set your left hand IK. Then you can go in and set your rotations. Yeah, you'll have to kind of like drag this out and then go make sure you're playing in your selected viewport on the selected weapon that you have, and then you can kind of hit, once you play, you can Windows tab and then hit this eject. There'll be like an eject button, and you can eject from the controller. Then you can come over here and adjust your IK and see it in the first person view and see kind of where your hand's supposed to be. And once it's set, you're good. You don't have to set it anymore. It will always follow the weapon with sway and everything. And then you can do that for every single gun. Next video, that's going to be the end for this video. I will stop it here because it's already getting really, really long. We'll do the third person stuff. So that'll be the part 2. Yeah, until then, have a good one. If you have any questions, if I missed anything, let me know, because it's a lot of information. I have to remember kind of every single aspect of it, and it's kind of sometimes I skip stuff. So if I miss something, let me know. Yep, have a good one, guys. See you.